Elijah and kill him. That's not what she was trying to do. She wanted him to run like a ragged dog. Why? To undermine his authority. Oh, he's a prophet, is he? There's a reason this stuff comes against us, and the devil tries to get us, cause us to pull our tail between our legs and run off and hide in the corner somewhere and suck on our thumb like little Johnny Horner. No, there's a reason. He's trying to undermine not only you to yourself. He's trying to undermine you to all those that follow you. God call. Yeah. Revival. Yeah, God's really going to impact this city. Look at him. Where's he at now? Where's the fire at now? He wasn't scared of Jezebel. He was discouraged. He was discouraged because he'd given all. And it didn't pan out the way he thought it was going to pan out. And that church is not as big as you thought it would be by now. Saying to God, you haven't done for God as much as you thought you'd do for God by now. I'm trying to tell you. Be steadfast, unmovable. Always. Even when you're overwhelmed. Even when Jezebel is trying to undermine you. Come on, not just to yourself, but to everybody else that's watching and looking on. Always! Someone shout always. Abounding in the work of the Lord. Why? For as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain. He finally gets him up back on his feet, and he finally gets his shoulders squared again. You go look at the direction he went, and you go look at the orders that God gave him. Come to the keyboard of the organ and finish. And what you will discover is that God told Elijah, you go back right where you just came from. You go right back in the direction you just ran from. You go right back into the face of that opposition. You go right back to that desk. You go right back to that pulpit. You go right back to that nurse's station. You go right back to doing that putting that stuff in the computer and tallying, and it's not all equaling up, and you're having to rob Peter to pay Paul, and I'm preaching to somebody. You go back to it. You go back to it. You don't run from opposition. You run right back into that friction. Because it's in the presence of opposition where there's opportunity and there's anointing. And I got some things I want you to do. Get out from underneath this broom tree. You're letting the devil, the longer you lay here, he's sweeping joy and he's sweeping self-confidence and come on. And right as he sweeps that out, he's sweeping in heightened insecurities. He's sweeping in bitterness. I'm talking to you about you better get out. You better get up. You better get. I'm talking to the man. I'm talking to the man that's called fire down. I'm talking to somebody right now. I don't know how in the world. Yes, I do, because I've dealt with it. I don't know how in the world anybody like you, come on, that can teach like you can teach with the anointing that you have. I don't know how anybody in the world. I don't know how anybody in the world can wake up like you and I'm a failure. Come on, maybe we just need to move on. We're not. I'm telling you, you're making a difference in Memphis. You're making a difference in those people. Come on, you're God called. You're as much God. You're as much God's man on the bottom as you're God's man on the mountain. You're as much God. You're as much God's man when there's fire as when there's failure. You didn't hear me. You're as much God's man as there is fire as when there is failure. Don't you run. Don't you run. You plant your feet. Don't you run. This is not personal, Gary Robinson. This is not personal. This is a spirit. And God needs a man that'll lock down. Because if it wasn't everything they're saying it is, it'd be something else. Because this is spirit driven. And it wants to undermine your credibility and your calling. Come on, it wants to undermine everything, all the hard work, the blood, sweat, and you walk right back into the face of that opposition. You walk right back into it. You walk humbly, but knowing who you are. And you walk back in there with a bottle of oil in your hand and say, okay, we're fixing to anoint some things. We're going to anoint the next prophet, and we're going to anoint the next king. You go and believe that God is going to allow you to bless the secular and the spiritual. You go home and believe that God's going to bless. You're as much God's man. You're as much God's saint when you got money as you are when you ain't got money. No, Elijah, Jezebel in her court didn't bow. But there's 7,000. I wish I'd have thought of this sooner. I'd have had somebody learn it and sing it. It's out of Kurt's league because it's Southern gospel. Forgive me, Kurt. Hallelujah. You're in the country. There are a bunch of old crackers in here that like that Southern gospel music. Praise God. But Greater Vision made a song popular probably 10 years ago called Faces. Geniusly written. When you've planted, you've been faithful to the field, and the field didn't yield what you thought. You know the seed you put in the ground. And it didn't yield. Didn't yield. The chorus goes into, there's going to come a day when you walk into heaven and God's going to turn your face and show you all the faces. Elijah, there's 7,000 that your ministry's impacted. I'm telling you, you're making an impact that you don't know you're making. I close with this. She had hoped when he was young that he would take musical interest, and he was naturally talented, and so early on she put her young son in lessons, and he quickly grew bored with the routine of going to a lesson every week. Wasn't long until he no longer fiddled on the piano, or he just kind of walked away from all of it. The mother was saddened. Her hopes and dreams and the financial investments she'd made, and she was trying to find a way to rekindle that, way to stir that interest up again. Just, he's got it. I've made the investment. I don't remember if she was heard an advertisement on the radio or seen a pamphlet somewhere, but the great Paderewski was coming to town. It was a black tie affair, and she knew she was taking a chance because he was still very young, but She purchased the expensive tickets, and she bought him the appropriate attire. She thought, I'll take him to a night of Paderewski, and maybe this will rekindle his love for music. They walk into this great ballroom, concert hall type of atmosphere, and the who's who of the city is there, and immediately they feel like this is not where we belong. And the boy his mouth is hanging open, and he's never seen anything like this in his life. And the audience is lightly lit, and it's kind of dim there in the congregation, but up on the stage is this black, beautiful Steinway, and there's one single light that's on this piano. As the ushers trying to help them find their seats, the mother stopped. Someone calls out to her, and she stopped, and she begins to converse with a friend. And the next thing she knows is there's like a cacophony of, like a mixture of noises, and it takes her a minute to realize what's going on, but there's a commotion, and all these high-fluting, upper echelon type of people, the high society of the areas, their attention's turned up to the grand piano, and there's a noise mixed with the disapproval of the crowd, and she reaches to grab her son and realizes he's no longer by her side. He's gone. She realizes that the jeering and the laughter is her son is the object of this, and as her ears tune in, she realizes that her boy is setting up on this piano underneath the spotlight, and he's doing his best to play through chopsticks, and it's fumbled, feebled at best. And the crowd is booing and jeering, and all of a sudden, to the surprise and shock of these folks, the black satin curtains part, and Paderewski himself steps out. And the boy turns around to see Paderewski, and he freezes. And the accomplished musician walks up behind him, and he puts the boy's hands back on the piano, and then he places his around the boy's hands, and he says, "You just play what you know." And the great composer Paderewski began to play a beautiful piece around the fumbled, feeble attempt of the little young man. To the astonishment, the air was sucked from the building. People stood with their mouth hanging open, watching as by ear, the professional right there by ear began to compose a piece around the fumbled, feeble, failing effort of the young boy. But I want to remind you here tonight of the words of Paderewski in the ears of that young boy. Just play what you know to play. I want to talk to this conference here tonight, this camp meeting rather. I want to talk to saints. I want to talk to young people. I want to talk to these preachers. I hope there's some preachers' wives that are ready to pray for one another. And I'm telling you, go back home and play what you know to play. Brother March, I can't play it. No, just preach Acts 2:38. Preach one God. Preach the blood. Come on, preach the essentiality of the new birth message. It's feeble. The curtains of eternity. Boy, I feel this. Oh, I hope this is not sensationalism, but I feel a prophetic utterance on my lips right now. I feel like if you'll go home and keep fumbling through chopsticks, I know you feel like your fingers are heavy. Come on, I can't hit the right key for hitting the wrong key. Come on, Elijah, get out from underneath that broom tree. Get your hands back on the... I feel like between now and the end of the year, in fact, dear God, if we're going to use social media, let's use it for something good. You guys need to start feeding off of one another, because I believe between now and December,